What do I think about Batman, the Court of Owls Saga? Stick around and find out. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever Wraith reviews, officially on the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today we're going to be tackling a Batman saga for the ages, The Court of Owls, first released in 2011, or should I say started. The writer for this story is Scott Snyder. The art was done by Greg Capullo, reading to make sure that I got it right, and the inks were done by a man by the name of Jonathan Glapion. All of their faces should be across the screen right now. Before I begin, though, I just want to say, for those of you who have noticed that I have other Wraith reviews from before, that was a prototype. Think of it as a pilot. This is the first official episode. Now, the Court of Owls Saga introduces a brand new sort of gallery of rogues for Batman, the aforementioned court, which is sort of like Gotham's answer to the Illuminati, a shadowy cabal of rich people hoping to take back control of the city from Batman and Bruce Wayne. And they'll do it in any way, shape, or form they see fit. Now, with the Court of Owls Saga, it's a story of 11 different parts with 2 bonus parts in this case attached to it. And they are all named and they're all very, very good. But the thing is that the story's not perfect. There's a couple of moments that I personally thought kind of faltered. So I'm not going to give like a big, super spoily, hour-long discussion of all of the great art and all of that that's in here. But I will be running through the basics in 3 parts, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and I'll give my overall rating on the bottom. For now, it'll be rated out of 10, but there's a good chance that I will be doing a unique scale in the future. Now, let's get started, fittingly, with the beginning. Our story begins in Gotham, with Batman helping out Our story begins in Gotham, with Batman and apparently the Joker teaming up to take down some baddies. But the Joker is revealed to be Dick Grayson, as you can see here, using some freaky holographic technology. A party goes on upstairs in the Wayne Manor. I'm reading through very quick in order to basically make sure that all of my information is indeed up to date. Because even though I just read this today, which is the 9th as I'm recording this video, it pays to keep a reference handy to make sure that you're not accidentally blowing a story out of proportion. So, with that being said, the party upstairs is to celebrate a redevelopment of Gotham, which you can see right here. You can see the iconic Bruce Wayne being like, "Think for the future," and all that jazz. And then the story moves on to a very dark turn, as a man is found dead in an alley with dozens of knives inside of his body, each emblazoned with a symbol of an owl. Interestingly enough, this leads many people to believe that the Court of Owls have struck, but Batman doesn't believe in the Court of Owls because they're nothing more than a fable, so far as he knows for now. An ominous warning is emblazoned on the wall, made out of paint thinner, that Batman ignites to reveal this ominous warning written in flame. So, the day will then proceed, and things start getting very interesting indeed. The man is examined inside of a police morgue with the help of Batman remotely. He soon discovers that there are odd anomalies on the teeth, which shows the symbol of an owl, and unusual injuries. And the skin found underneath the nails of the victim, which is usually tied to struggling against the killer, matches Dick Grayson. Nightwing. That is a very cool example of foreshadowing that we will get into later. But suffice it to say, this is very quickly dismissed as the man tried to warn Dick that they were coming, and he got his skin underneath his nails from the week prior. And then things start getting interesting as he meets with a mayoral candidate by the name of Lincoln Marsh. He actually met him a little bit earlier in the party, but again, I don't want to stick around too long. Suddenly, a strange man appears. This guy. He is a Talon, and he has decided to cause some trouble. And by cause trouble, we mean he tries to kill Batman. And this is where we begin to find something interesting about this would-be assassin. He's tough. Really tough. As Bruce personally states, and I quote, "Doesn't make sense. It only takes 11 pounds of pressure to collapse a windpipe. I'm applying over 100 and he's not even flinching. Must be on something." And indeed, these little asides of thought that Batman is using to try and be a detective in order to try and stay focused and really suss out the truth belies the Talon's most interesting traits, which will happen later on. The Talon and Bruce fall out of a building, and the Talon hits the ground. However, Bruce manages to catch his fall on a surprise gargoyle that he had put up, or that had been put up by Henry Wayne, the son of Alan Wayne, who built the original Wayne Tower. As you can see, the connections between the Waynes and these mysterious Court of Owls begins to really start to become interesting. By Chapter 3, we learn that Alan Wayne died in the sewer, and Bruce starts going after the assassins. I'm looking down at the book again to make sure that the references are fine. Lincoln says he has been injured, and very well, apparently, what is very interesting, and Lincoln has been injured in the earlier attack by the Talons, but Batman, or Bruce Wayne, continues to hunt them down, using the clues that Alan Wayne was supposedly killed by a member of the Court of Owls in order to suss them out. And there's some interesting notes about said owls as the truth begins to be sussed out. Quote again from the book. This is from Chapter 3. "On the subject of owls, here's a fact about them. They're one of the rare birds that don't build its own nest. Instead, what they do is find nests abandoned or in use by rival birds and take them over. In essence, they invade an enemy's territory and build their nests inside his home," which is exactly what they did. A base of operations for the Court of Owls has been found in a location that was built by a trust fund started by Alan Wayne. And all of the other hideouts for the Court of Owls share this same pattern. This very cool detective work really hammers home that Batman is a great detective, and it's fantastic. He doesn't even start punching Talons until like Chapter 8 or 9. It's mostly detective work and trying to track down who these Talons are. Then it blows up. The warehouse in question blows up, reminding Batman that they're onto him. And the owls will be coming. Yet, Bruce still doesn't fully believe in the court just yet. He even recounts his first detective story, where as a boy he tried to track down the Court of Owls, and he thought he had all the answers. And he went up into a secret location and found nothing. The secret location was empty. There were no owls. There was no court. His parents had died simply by a random mugger who tried to steal Martha's pearls. That's it. That's all that happened, so far as he knows anyway. And at that point, he personally took this as a lesson to not let emotions rule him. It's part of the reason why Batman in this story seems particularly callous when it comes to studying and being a detective. He doesn't let emotions get in front of him, and he sees emotions as a problem. But Dick, who shows up quite a few times in the story, is adamant that he needs that emotions are important. And he even goes so far as to say, "You were just a kid, Bruce," when talking about the court. What's interesting is that later on, the Bat goes to try and track down a lead. and finds himself abducted by a Talon, and has found himself in a labyrinth made by the Court of Owls. It's moments in this middle here that really kind of start to mess with me, but I think mess with me in a right way. 8 days he's been gone. 8 days inside of this labyrinth. Nightwing and Damian, Barbara, Selina, they're all trying to do the work while Bruce and Batman have been missing for 8 days. You can even see the despair in Selina's face as she looks up and sees that symbol. Bats is missing. And not just missing. He's being targeted by the owls. In this mad labyrinth, it becomes painfully clear that the owls want to show him something. Pictures, hundreds of people that they've killed. They're telling him a story, room by room. He defiantly tries to stand up to the owls, staying in the dark, trying to tear them limb from limb. But that doesn't happen. He must hide in the dark, following the labyrinth. And this is where things start to get kooky. I thought initially that my copy of the book had been warped. But as far as I know, this is intentional. The story begins to turn literally on its side. And eventually, everything that you think you know about the court and everything that Batman thinks he knows about the court are literally flipped upside down. And he even begins to go mad. I know I've been going on for about 10 minutes, but trust me, this is the abridged version, as abridged as I can make it while keeping justice to the story. This tale of Batman almost going mad in this labyrinth is great. And yet, by chapter 6, he proves that he will not give up. He won't give up. And he will keep going until he can survive. And his nightmarish transformation into an owl monster, which is purely symbolic as far as I'm concerned, ends. And he's back to reality as he plunges back into the river, and it's time to go on. Eventually he returns back into the manor. But something is wrong. The Talon that he had found, that had been brought up, this man has a connection to a current living member of the Bat family. As a double explanation, I'll pull up this quote partway through. Do you have a name for him yet? Yes. His name is Cobb. William Cobb. And he is your great-grandfather. Dick's great-grandfather was the Talon that tried to kill Bruce. But it goes one step further. But that will have to wait. As Dick finally gets angry and snaps and rants to Batman about emotions. Batman literally smacks him out of it. This is such a well-balanced family, you can tell. And he reveals that Dick was supposed to be a Talon. But when Bruce took him in, their plans were foiled. But that's not the end yet, as things start to really pick up. The Talons are going to destroy all of their rivals and take back Gotham. That includes Batman, Bruce Wayne, and many, many others. In an event we know as the Night of the Owls. They find their way to Wayne Manor, and Bruce has to fight off dozens of Talons in a rampage across the manor. This is the first major fight scene, by the way, of the whole story. Everything up to this point has been little snippets of combat, followed by a decent but not like grand scale fight scene. the fight scenes go low, and then they begin ratcheting up. But this is the first really major one in the story, really the only one. Most of this story is detective work, which is great, because Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective. The fights should be secondhand to Bruce's detective skills, and they really do. And they show this up until this point, and the fights keep going. And going and going. And all this time, by the way, all of the allies of the Bat family, which it's mentioned in a sort of side story, including members of the Birds of Prey, are going to stop the assassinations while Bruce fights off a horde of Talons trying to get him. But he has a plan. The Talons have regenerative abilities that are slowed by the cold, and he is trying to freeze, effectively, the Talons. But to buy him enough time, he busts this fucker out. This colossal suit, which I don't think has a name in the story, but I'm going to call it the Bat Buster, because, well, this is what he does. Look at him go! And there's other notes of the story. We're in Chapter 9 now. And eventually all of the Talons are stopped by the cold. And the Bat is back with a vengeance. He goes to track down Lincoln. But it's too late. There are 3 names on a list that he wanted to give him. But he was stabbed and shot. Now comes where things get really interesting, and in my opinion, this is where it kind of stumbles. There's a concept here that I'm not keen on. He happens upon Lincoln, who is supposed to have been abandoned in an old children's hospital that lost its funding when Thomas and Martha Wayne died. And as a result, a lot of abuse came in because it became corrupted by Gotham's corrupted officials and all that. But what's interesting is what is said here. And this is a major spoiler, so I recommend you skip to this point in the time code if you just want to get to my overall thoughts. I already spoiled quite a bit, so I should have put a spoiler warning up before, but if you stayed up until this point and wanted or wanting to avoid a major spoiler, seriously, go to that link. This is your last chance. All right. It turns out that Lincoln claims to be Thomas Wayne Jr., Bruce's younger brother, who was supposed to have died in a miscarriage following a car accident. But while this was cool at first, because we get basically Owlman in Earth 1, where, excuse that, I don't know what happened there. We'll check that in a minute. But eventually it feels like he's just intentionally aggrandizing his lies in order to try and throw Bruce off of the trail. And that's where I feel like the stumble happens. It would have been cool if they actually committed, but they leave it open to interpretation, and I'm not keen on that. Bruce should have grabbed a DNA sample or something. But as the final operation and as the final curtain begins to fall, and we see that the Bat maintains his vigilance, the end of the story comes. And the 2 short stories are basically just, hey, the Talons are doing a thing, everybody's been sent out, and this side story by Jarvis Pennyworth, who had been killed by a Talon before Martha and Bruce. And basically was supposed to be a memoir to Alfred, because a letter was supposed to be delivered but never did, and some thoughts on the matter from Alfred and Bruce. This is where I begin to tell you my overall thoughts and my rating for the Court of Owls Saga. Can you tell that time's been going on? Because the timer for the reptile light just went out. Anyway, overall, I think this, while I'm not a very well-versed DC Comics reader, I can totally understand why DC calls this an essential edition. This story right here is a 9 out of 10. Ding. Because this shows Batman being a detective. It shows him being beaten and broken by the Court of Owls. And it shows him bouncing back stronger than ever. This, in my opinion, is one of the definitive Batman stories. And if you and one of the best Batman stories to have come from the previous decade. If you've not read Court of Owls yet, I highly recommend you do. Especially the Court of Owls Saga, which came out in 2018, which has all of it plus the extra stuff. Also, I would like to make this a little very quick PSA thing. I got this book from one of my local libraries. If you've not been to a library in God knows how long, or somehow I've never been, go to a library. Libraries these days are incredible places to be. You get books, movies, music, TV shows. You can even pick up video games if you want. Just get a library card, go in, and rent. Go to a library. It's great. That's where I found this. If you can find great stories like this in a library, go out and get it. And then hopefully pick it up eventually. But those are my final thoughts on the Batman Court of Owls saga. I would like to know if you in particular have read the Court of Owls saga. What do you think? I know that this was not a super deep dive, but it may have also been deeper than some people would have liked. So I tried to reach a good middle ground to try and do the story justice. If you would like a full deeper dive, please let me know, on this story, as I will probably be reading it again when I get a chance. And don't forget to be awesome. The next thing I would like you to know what I think of is the Blade Runner Final Cut. Again, pick this up at a library. I'm telling you, man, libraries are the shit. But coming January 31st, I will let you know what I think of the Blade Runner Final Cut, released in 2007. Don't forget to be awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the other side.
Do the handstand.